Well, 6 months ago, I had really planned on just nailing everything and going sub 6 in this race. But I mean, I've had a couple things pop up here and there. It's not really worked out. So I'm just gonna kind of use this as more like a training day. I'm really not gonna go into the super hard. Just, in case you didn't know, Chat 7.3 hashtag training day, and they go into this. I hate that.
Done dealing with your first world problems over there, brother?
Easy, man. Jeez, first world problems. We always talk about not having a sponsor, but maybe I should reach out to Xfinity or whoever else does the cable and stuff around these parts. But man, struggle bus on the Wi-Fi this morning, but better late than ever. Thank you for listening. Welcome back. Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 266.
Oh, it is, man. 266.
Right on the money. I continue my streak. And, thank you for listening. I come to you every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on time, sometimes early, but never late. We appreciate you.
Yep. You've got a coach and his age group athlete talking things triathlon, trying to figure this sport out through our weekly, twice-a-week conversations.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure can, buddy.
This sport is incredibly difficult in terms of you just said it, and sometimes I think people, when they're a first-time listener, kind of think, hey, I don't know, what the hell are these guys even talking about? But triathlon isn't black and white. It's oversimplified when you read articles and you Google something and you listen to somebody's shared post about the 10 best ways to, get your next bike split, or easy ways to run faster on just 2 times a week, or skip swimming in the winter because it's a terrible return on investment for your time. There's so much information out there that people have to oversimplify it, because if you don't make a catchy phrase or a catchy title, then you're not going to read it in the sea of over-information, and just most of it's just straight up BS. So what we try to do, having been in the sport for myself 15 years and Mike for going on 7, is just going to give you our experiences, wisdom, not based on the fact that we're total experts in our field, but that we have a lot of knowledge. We've gone a lot through things. I've worked with hundreds of athletes over the last 10 years, and we do the best we can to explain things in a very simple way with that. We kind of cut to the chase. We don't have any sponsors, obviously, which I continue to love the more and more I listen to other podcasts. And we give good feedback in terms of what you really need to know and why you need to know it and apply it. And then the other part that I feel like we probably do the best on is just the fact that we are everyday people. We're trying to figure out how we can integrate triathlon into our lives and still perform well and do really well, while also keeping a good balance with life and the things that matter most to us as well. And so that's what we do. We do it every Monday and Thursday, and we hope you get something or a lot out of every podcast that we do.
Yeah, I mean, we have a trajectory that we're going towards. We want to just figure this stuff out, and there's a lot of, just because you can sit there and watch or look at a pro's workout doesn't mean that that's going to be right for you. I think that what we do is just explore all different angles and sort of like that, because really you got to figure it out for yourself, what's best for you ultimately. And there's just so many different packages that can be put into. We can kind of speak from example, reevaluate things after they happen, and kind of just explore them. But ultimately, you got to find what's right for you, what makes you happiest and healthiest, and that's sort of what we're all about. Because there's just, like you said, a million different options, and just because somebody's doing something doesn't mean it's the right thing. And we keep going over these different thoughts and ideas, and hopefully, sometimes we say them in a way that will stick. Maybe explain it in such a way that it clicks for you. So
it's all about the stick.
It's all about
it's all
the
about
stick.
the stick and the stick and the click. That's what we're all about. That's probably something we probably ought to edit. But no, we talked on Monday briefly about differences in taper, and I know that we promised to go into that today, and we do try to keep our promises. We often don't, but we try because we do kind of let the podcast lead itself. We don't try to lead the podcast, and but no, I figured it's a great time because I mean triathlon season is already in full swing with races everywhere. But as we mentioned on Monday, we have a huge race, a team race. Where we'll have like 40-some plus athletes that we work with in Chattanooga next Sunday for the big race. And then I know in our closed Crushing Iron group, if you want to be a part of that conversation, and a lot of people do recently, I guess we've had a lot of new listeners. You can all go to Facebook and search Crushing Iron group and be part of that conversation. Great experience, great wisdom, very helpful individuals, and I encourage you to do that. But in that group alone, I would imagine we're going to have, with the athletes that we work with plus podcast listeners and people in that group, we're probably going to have close to 100 people there in Chattanooga on course doing their best. And so taper is something that I know a lot of our listeners are thinking about or have had questions about in the past. And so while the physical part of the taper and what you may or may not believe about it or your past experiences have been could be right, we could do better, but it could be way off. And I think diving into just the physical, mental, and emotional effects, kind of the ebb and flow of taper, is a good topic today, and just this general time of season in terms of evaluating what kind of taper you have. Do you take a bunch of days off? Do you not take a bunch of days off? Do you try to keep tension in your legs? Where's your mind? How are you doing mentally and emotionally? Or are you even addressing the anything from the chin up, which a lot of athletes don't. They worry about every niggle from the chin down, but I think oftentimes those are just manifested because of an issue up top, mentally and emotionally. And so I think going back and forth on those today would be of hopefully great benefit or some benefit or just even a smidge benefit to most of our listeners today.
Yeah. And again, there's tons of ways to look at taper, and I was kind of just thinking about it because I'm in it. And, maybe we could just make this podcast about me today.
Hey, you've been around for a while. You're pretty consistent.
But so I was just thinking about it, going into taper, and I'm working with a lot of athletes in our C26 club program, which is going awesome too. And you just get a lot of different perspectives on taper. And it's not just the taper that I'm thinking about here. I'm just thinking about I kind of came up with 5 different mindsets or scenarios for what taper may feel like to you. The first one I had is you feel really strong. The second one is, you feel pretty good, but maybe there's a little bit of a worry that you're undertrained. And then there's always the going into taper feeling fatigued or weak, and you're kind of unsure about how you're going to be going forward, and is it too late or whatever. There's also the ever famous I'm nervous and fearful. And then the last possibility is maybe you're coming down with something, you're starting to feel a little sick or something like that. So I just kind of thought it might be good to look at different perspectives on each of those, and we could just start with you're going into a taper, you're the coach, and just for reference, I kind of feel pretty strong, but also maybe just a hair fatigued.
For reference, when I have a large group of athletes that are going into a taper, God help me.
Mm-hmm. You ever deal with any emotions at all?
Because if coaching is basically 80% psychological and social work. But boy, when it becomes taper time, it hits the fan. Emotions and mental instability at its finest. And something that I've noticed recently, and there's a couple references I have. I have a lot of references in terms of athletes that I work with, but one specifically who's racing Ironman Santa Rosa on Saturday, and just kind of the ebb and flow of her emotions and the way her body's felt through the last week and a half. But then something that, and it goes to what you were saying, but I think mentally and emotionally, athletes really do fall into this category, and I think sometimes they don't catch themselves, is the sign up for a race, emotion and mental rush and adrenaline, and you know what, dude, I'm gonna average 12 to 15 hours this year. I'm gonna stay healthy. I'm gonna eat right. I'm gonna hit all my workouts, and so there is no reason why I shouldn't be just crushing this race I signed up for a year in advance.
Yep.
Then you fast forward all the way to 2 weeks before the race, and they had that same mentality. Here's what happens: athletes go from race sign up to race taper week with that same mentality, and they totally forget or are not objective of, I don't know, all of the 40-something plus weeks that actually really happened in the middle, and they totally erase it like it didn't even exist. It is wiped from their memory. It never happened. And so what often happens times is athletes raise their expectations of themselves, raise their level of commitment, raise their motivation, and place all of these standards, work ethic, commitment, time management, upon themselves for the first 2 weeks they sign up for a race, and then they cut and paste those same thoughts and feelings and commitment levels to the taper. And they basically wipe clean of their memory the reality that was between sign up and between check-in at race day. And so what happens is in taper, I just don't know if I think I'm ready. I just don't know if I've done enough work. I really wanted this. And I'm like, I know you really, and then I'm not trying to like poo-poo people's, and downplay people's abilities. But the reality is that most often, and we've talked about this on multiple podcasts, is that people take these huge expectations that they pull out of nowhere based on nothing, without any concept and being objective of what life is really going to throw at you, and they attach a race registration with a goal and a time and an expectation. And then life happens, and reality happens. Sickness, maybe injury, family dynamics, new job, lost job, new relationship, out of a relationship, travel, moving, all these things happen. And during that time, a lot of times they're generous with themselves. You know what? I'm sick, and I take a couple days off. I take a couple weeks off. I don't know. I'm just not really feeling it right now. You know what? Maybe I'll wait till next week to, lay off the Reese's peanut butter cups at 10:30 p.m. And they put in some good training, and then taper time breaks. Man, I don't know, man. When I signed up for this race, I was really shooting for that 5.5 hour mark, and I think I've done enough work. I'm just not really sure, and they start to freak out. But the best thing that you can do is first, stop freaking out. B, is be confident in the work that you have done. Not anxious and worrisome about what you didn't do. And this is where athletes find themselves this week especially. 2 weeks out, it's, I don't think I've done enough. So what I've got to do is I've got to add in some more sessions. I've got to gain some new fitness here in these last 10 days. It's going to really put me over the edge, because I know I've missed 26 to 30 runs and about 10 or 12 rides. But I tell you, I know I missed those. But if I can really nail these last 10 days, I think I got it. Yeah. And so they'll overtrain, or they'll extend themselves, or try to just play catch up. And so just mentally and emotionally, the best thing you can do for yourself right now is be confident in what you've done. Not what you wanted to do, not what you hoped you could do, but what you've actually done. And then don't even replace or reframe an expectation upon what you've done. Just be confident that, you know what, have I been perfect? I don't know, maybe not, probably not. Or, yeah, I really nailed it. And then just say, you know what, I am who I am right now. 10 days out, 14 days out, 6 days out. Whoever you are right now is who you're going to be for race day. The best thing you can do now is get emotionally, mentally, and physically prepared to execute to the Mike Tarrolly, since this is all about you, the Mike Tarrolly fitness level that I've created right now, and to make it as it's like buying a new car a month or two out and you've driven it. Now is not the time to make upgrades. Now is the time to clean it, get it detailed, make sure the oil's changed, do all the little small things, make sure it's tuned up, to get ready to go have your best race with one of our favorite shirts, or it could be shirt, but isn't a shirt, is race on the horse you trained on. And I think we actually coined that phrase this time last year when we were going back into our Chattanooga 70.3 race last year too. But that's the ebb and flow. It is that I say this at probably too much, but expectations are just future resentments. And this is like the 2 weeks where people will go back and just overthink everything instead of just opining about what they haven't done or have done physically, when what they should be doing is really tuning in mentally and emotionally on what they're going to have to go through on race day, and what they're going to have to control, and what they're going to have to react to, and what they need to prepare for to allow that physical ability and that fitness that they've gained to execute the best day possible. And that's what athletes should be focusing on.
Yeah, it's really about letting go, because there's the deadline's here. I do some work in film, and in the past, like if we've had a film festival coming up in 2 weeks and the film has to be done, you can tweak and go back and forth and try to perfect everything. But the reality is, it's time that the film's done. Like the work is done, and then you have to sweeten it, like you said. You got to fine tune things. You got to color correct and get the audio right and just get it out. And that's the fact. You can sit there and, like you said, it's like cramming for a test. You can kind of just try and pour everything in, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And most of the time it doesn't. And it certainly doesn't usually lead to a satisfying outcome. So but the question is, how do you do that? Like, how do you accept? I mean, because it's gone. I could sit here this morning. It's a cold, sort of rainy morning, and I just don't feel like I could do a half right now. It's just one of those modes. But like, do you go back and kind of look at some of your workouts? I mean, look at what you did. I mean, can you go back and, just say, hey, this day I didn't feel like running, and it was one of my best runs. Those are the kind of mental bridges I think we have to cross coming into a race, because if you're tapering, you're not as active, you might not be feeling as confident, or whatever the case may be. Do you have any strategies for how to really appreciate the work you've done the last 4 or 5 months?
Well, I would suggest go back and look through Training Peaks, but sometimes that's also bad because athletes will just see like all the work that they didn't do, because that's the mentality of that they have as a type A athlete, and always looking for things that aren't done well enough to their level, to their perfectionism. What I would tell them is to, first and foremost, just be grateful and be appreciative of the fact that you have, because while many athletes haven't, made it to this taper or this start line healthy enough to actually compete. Mm-hmm. And that when you signed up for this race, that wasn't a given. That wasn't I think I might get hurt, so I'm probably not going to end up doing this race. Everyone signed up thinking, I'm going to do this race. But if you're here and you're in the taper and you're getting close to race day, unless something, you do something really ridiculous or freak accident happens, and you're gonna toe the line. And so the first thing you can do is just be happy and be grateful and be appreciative of the opportunity that you now have to go out and race, because not everybody has it. And the second thing I could tell you to do is start making a list of the people you need to thank. If you're married, if you've got kids, if you've got friends, family, whatever, who are coming to the race, spend your time and energy doing things a little bit extra with your time, since your volume should be down, and do things that you haven't done the last. Take your mind out of yourself for a minute, because for most of us, if we're training and we're in a peak phase, or even a build, or we're just triathletes in general, where we only think about ourselves, is take some to get your head out of your rear and look around you and be thankful and be appreciative, and maybe play a little bit of catch up. Maybe spend some extra time with your spouse. Maybe spend some extra time with your kids. Maybe do things that you may or may not probably should have done these last 6 to 8, 12 weeks, and take everything out of yourself. Because when you're able to do that, and you stop checking the weather, and you stop, and every 4 steps down your hallway of your house, you do a systems check. I don't know. That was a niggle. I don't know about that. You know what? Probably need to take the next 4 days off. Or I'm gonna call off work today and sit my normal take boots for 9 hours. It's you become even more like heightened and self-absorbed. So I think that just taking it out of yourself first and foremost is one of the biggest things that you can do to just erase that self criticism that we just dive deeper and deeper into when it comes to the taper. Prepare to have fun. Be grateful, appreciate the people who have helped gotten you this far, and then just start getting all the little things in order that you need to, so that race week can be as stress-free as possible. And stop totally overanalyzing every single thing that you've done, going back and forth, obsessing about the weather, and did you miss or not miss this last really crucial brick that probably is going to put you over the edge and make a 30-minute difference in your 70.3. Just relax.
You don't think it would do that?
Yeah. I have my doubts.
But no, you're so right, man. It's like people care about you, not your race time. I think we're the only ones that care about a race time when it comes down to it. We got this, like you said, you sign up for a race and then immediately you put down that goal as 5:30. And then that becomes the obsession for most of us, But the reality is the people around you that we should be thanking, like, don't think about your race time, and they won't think about it afterwards either. It's like this
they don't really care anyway.
Thing, man.
They don't really care anyway.
And like you said, what? Just be grateful and go out there, because really, the pressure is all created, and there's no money on the line, or there's what I mean. There's no like true life's transformation on the line. It's just part of the deal. It's an opportunity to go out there and race. And I swear, man, it's like one of the hardest things to do. But I find it sometimes when I'm in a race, and I'm really like before a race. Sometimes I'll get that feeling where I just can't wait to get in the water and swim. Just swim. It isn't about like racing. It's like, wow, this is really cool. I get to jump off this pier and swim in the Chattanooga or the Tennessee River. I mean, like, you don't get to do that much, and it's actually in its own right pretty cool. And then ride a cool bike course and run around with people cheering for you. I mean, that can be enough, man. So, I mean, back to the beginning here. It's like, I guess it doesn't really matter, I guess, how you feel. It's just that you have to keep in mind that you've done the work. And now really the whole goal over the last couple of weeks is to figure out a way to get the most energy possible back.
And erase that identity you placed on yourself 6 months ago. Because here's also part of the conversation that's happening with athletes. Well, 6 months ago I had really planned on just nailing everything and going sub 6 in this race, but I mean, I've had a couple things pop up here and there, it's not really worked out, so I'm just going to kind of use this as more like a training day. I'm really not going to go into the super arches, in case you didn't know, chat 7.3 #training day. and they go into this, I hate that. I just hate it, because you're submitting to a loss before you even get in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you don't want the opportunity to get out there and race, and you already talked yourself up and over this ledge of I give up, mercy, I give in. I understand that if you've been all up on social media and pressing everything #chat 70.3 #gonna crush it this, then you probably got to backpedal. But don't take that mentality going into an event where you have an opportunity to lay your best on the line. Because if you take that mentality of #training day, then when something difficult happens, guess what? You're going to bail, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Because the same approach you take to that is, back, on a Tuesday, hop on the trainer, my smart trainer was malfunctioned, so 15 minutes in, I just kind of called it a day, just because it's just a training day. I'll wake up and go back at it tomorrow. That's what you're going to do in the race.
Yeah.
Your wetsuit zipper breaks. You get a calf cramp getting your wetsuit stripped off in T1. You go into transition. You can't find one of your shoes for like 2 seconds, or maybe a aid station volunteer didn't have your bottle at the exact. You're going to look for every excuse to just affirm that today doesn't mean anything, and please, dear God, don't think it does, because I don't, because you do, if you, I don't, because this is not serious to me. I don't know if it's serious to you or not, but this is a training day for me. This is not very serious. I'm not racing my heart out. So if you see my time, hashtag training day.
Plus I had it. I was a little injured.
It was plus I was just kind of coming in like I get it. We all have stuff, and like you line up on the start line. And I guarantee if there's 2,500 people that are there lining up the swim start, if you polled all 2,500 and you said, all right, send me a snapshot and a Polaroid with the race time and the expectations you have when you sign up for the race, and then I'm going to take a Polaroid picture of you now, and then now you tell me what you're expecting today based on what happened in reality. They're all going to have something totally different. Because we can't predict life, and we can't predict what happens. But the only thing you can predict is your effort and your execution. Because guess what? If you line up with that kind of attitude that is just going to be practice, or I'm not really taking it that seriously, then you know what? Guess what? You don't even know when the next time you're going to have one of these opportunities is. Because the next one that doesn't want to be your hashtag training day and wants to be your A race or your big race of the year, you might get hurt. You might get injured. Or something really crappy might happen. You might not be able to race. So take it seriously and be grateful for the opportunity that you have, because also guess what? There are probably half the spectators there. They're going to be walking up and cheering and looking at this, and you know what? You may or may not inspire somebody to come out and do one of these the next time. And you're probably not going to tell them, hey, dude, I know you want to do this, but it's not a race for me. It's a training day. So just be. I hate it. It's just, but people do it all
I
the
love
time.
that you hate it, man.
And it's nothing more but just to protect their own ego from themselves.
100%, dude.
Just take. I mean, you don't have to take it over seriously. It might not be your A race of the year, but race, execute. Like you don't have any other opportunities to go practice this. You don't get an opportunity to have a race start with other people and put your wetsuit on and race hard for 1.2. You don't get a closed bike course. You don't get aid stations. You don't get volunteers. You don't get a chance to execute a perfect 56-mile race. You don't get a chance to practice your transitions in the race environment. You don't get a practice to execute. You don't get those anymore. So don't waste them with this mental attitude of it doesn't mean that much. Well, it does. I've just told myself that it doesn't because I haven't met my emotional, mental, and physical expectations that I placed upon myself 8 months ago when I hit register.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't met those, and guess what? Oh, it matters, baby, and it matters big. So just be appreciative and look at the actual, like the opportunity again that you have, and now all you should think about is, regardless of how your life has been. Because you know what? I have athletes whose lives have gone borderline perfect up until this point. And I've got some athletes who have the life has been borderline just like on the verge of total obstacle-ridden chaos. But we're not going into it as, because I just think it's a bad lesson to teach people in general. You know what? It's just not going to mean that much. Let's just toe the line and just go through the motions. No, it's not, because because then what are you going to learn? Because every time we race, we get to learn something. Every time we race, we get an opportunity. We get opportunities to learn something about ourselves and how we're able to adjust. So if you don't, and which again, it's a total safeguard. We're pulling that safety race week ripcord of, okay, but if I put myself in training mode, I don't have to make tough decisions. Because if I put myself in a situation and make tough decisions, A, I might not make a good one, and it might result in a really bad day. B, I might find myself that I don't want to make this decision, and then I'm just going to reaffirm this thought or feeling that I had about myself. So you don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable situation, because that's our biggest fear as just people in general. We don't want to put ourselves in vulnerable situations. So anything we can do to protect ourselves from putting a dent in our ego or putting ourselves in vulnerable situations, because what you might think or what your family might think or what your friends might think or what Garmin Connect and Strava and Facebook might think, we got to protect ourselves from that, because we don't want that. I mean, that would be the end of our tri career, and that would crush our hobby. So just go after it with whatever you have and execute, because you can learn so much more about effort and execution and how you deal with those things than you can learn about anything else.
It's so interesting to think about that.
I can feel the hate mail coming in.
Well, no. I think you're right. Maybe so.
Bing,
Yep,
bing.
it's coming now. It's live.
It's live.
It's live. It's so interesting to think about that from race sign up to the taper period, that gray area that we just sort of like when we sign up. I think most of us sign up for these races with this thing like, okay, I'm going to click on this and this is going to be my best race ever. And I have this idea in mind and this is how it's going to transpire and I'm going to train hard and put myself through all the challenges of training and prepare for this race. And then you get closer to the race and you're like, yeah, man, at 220 watts, I was thinking I was going to push in this race. Seems really hard about 3 weeks out. You're not quite that person. So you start manufacturing excuses and things like that. But I mean, the reality of it is the fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. And I think that's what the race should be looked at. It's a good challenge. I mean, you're going to get out there, and are you, like you said, are you going to, boy, I've got 5 miles left and on this bike, and I'm just going to pack it in because I just couldn't do it? Or are you just going to try and find like the best you have right then without pushing yourself over the limit for the run? Or are you just going to throw in like I would imagine that's what happens with a lot of people, right? Is that we get 40, 50 miles into that 70.3 bike, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm not going to have it on the run. So you just sort of turn it off instead of trying to figure out how you can pull more out of yourself on that run. Like, what's the strategy? The strategy never stops during a race. It's like always adjusting. Like we talked about before, it's like, especially during an Ironman, don't believe how you feel 1 minute to the next because that's going to change. Like just because you don't feel good at mile 40 doesn't mean you might not have a resurgence on mile 3 of the run. And these are things that I can't explain, or, not many people can explain. I don't know where they come from, but it's reality in race. So it's just one of those things. Like if you just think of the race as a really tough challenge, which it is, and which it should be, then it takes away a lot of pressure. It's like, okay, you don't, if you're going to try and climb Everest or something, you don't think of it in terms of like you're going to break a world record. It's just going to be hard. And then you're going to really feel good about what you did. So just, yeah, man. I mean, unless you're like really injured, and most of us will have sort of quasi injuries going into this race. And like,
I hope not.
Well, I mean, in our mind
going into this race, I mean, like you might have like a.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying
injuries,
that sometimes we
most
confuse
people are gonna
injury.
have like little, like most people are going to have like a little niggle or something here and there, but I don't know about like totally injured, like sideline
that's what I
injured.
meant. I got to come up with another word for niggle.
You don't like the word niggle?
I don't know. I'm still debating it. I think it obviously describes what you're talking about. That's what I mean, though. I don't mean injured. I mean like faux injury or something, or just like that thing.
That phantom.
Yeah.
Phantom tweak.
Mm-hmm.
Tweak. That's probably a good one. You could probably substitute.
Yeah, we're all gonna have little tweaks or whatever, but you know, it's like, I don't know, man. When I'm in training and I start to feel something like that, whether like sometimes like in my Achilles will start flaring, and then I just know I have to like readjust, and I don't just stop. That's what I'm getting at is a lot of these things, these niggles or tweaks or whatever they are.
Yeah,
it's
use that word, niggle.
If you're if you're running at like your fastest pace and you feel like your leg's going to fall off, it might be a good idea to adjust that and slow it down a little bit.
That's true. That would not be defined as a niggle.
Because you can. I guess my point is like I've seen this. I mean, I could be unique, and I'm sure you've done it too, where you've gone out. Let's say you go out on a 10-mile run. At mile 5, you're like, oh, this is really screwing up, and then do you quit or do you just like back it down, and then somehow miraculously it sort of fades away. I think we've talked about that before in our pain discussions, but it's like if something's hurting, make an adjustment, and see if you can rein yourself in for a while, and then your body will be like, all right, I've regrouped. Now I can go a little bit harder again.
Well, it's also like don't make mental and emotional split-second decisions about race day 10 days out when you're going through the taper flu. Because every athlete, once especially if you've had like a really, really, really heavy load, you drop down in volume, your body goes into repair mode. And it's very, very common to feel just kind of just you kind of feel foggy, you kind of feel meh, you just feel just like I don't have much. And it's your body taking so much energy that you would normally have to do all the repairing of your body and all the damage it's done for race day. And especially the longer and longer and longer the events get that you're trying to taper and peak for, is you got time to get warm. And so, like, for example, like this athlete that I've got doing Ironman Santa Rosa, basically the last 4 or 5 days, that race is Saturday, so in basically 48 hours, and she signed up for the race a little bit later than I would probably normally suggest. And so the last like 4 to 5 weeks have been just like one like really big build, and this last week was taper, and then this week's obviously is like major unload, especially for an Ironman. Like people a lot of times just do way too much, but it's a big unload. And basically for the last 5 days she's like, yeah, I feel kind of meh. My legs, kind of my hips, a little bit of this, I'm just kind of foggy, I just don't have any snap. And almost like right on cue, she texted me this morning. She was like, legs are back. And
yeah, that's
48 hours back. And that's what happens. But like, so like 5 days out, if you start feeling just totally like garbage, don't make any, well, you know what, maybe this just isn't my race.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're going to spend these next 5 days obsessing about what you can't do or putting these limitations on yourself about what's going to happen. And, you know, and you're just not going to, it's just not going to be your time. You could be sore level 5 during like a huge build, and you're like, I got this, I'm just going to train through it, I'm good. If you're like sore level 3 during taper, you're like, oh my God, I can't move. My legs feel like rocks. I think I need to get 3 massages today, some acupuncture tomorrow, some dry needling on Saturday, and then maybe like a 3 to 4 hour Epsom salt bath on Sunday. And then I think after that I'd be good to go. No. Like you overanalyze everything because you assume that 10 days out I'm supposed to be fresh and perfect, and you just overanalyze. I feel like my legs feel like rocks. I just don't have it in me. And I'm like, this pace was easy. This was a faster pace with a lower heart rate, and you're fresher than it was 3 weeks ago when you were under major fatigue. But nothing seemed to happen there. But that's how our mind works. Is we look for things. We look for a way to overanalyze and critique something that isn't even there. So if you're in the middle of a taper, you're starting a taper, you're approaching one, or you're like 2 or 3 days out from a race, don't make judgments on who you're going to be on race day based on the very second that you're feeling it. Because taper time, the week or 2 weeks, or however long you want to have yours, taper week is the exact same thought and approach as race day. Because during race day, guess what? 1 second, you're going to feel like Jan Frodeno about ready to run out and own everybody. And the next day, you're going to feel like you'd be faster walking backwards.
Yep.
And neither of them are true. But you're going to feel that. You're going to feel great 1 minute and terrible the next, and great 1 minute and terrible the next, and then maybe terrible for a little bit longer, and then great again. But you can't assume and make adjustments or tactical specific arrangements based on the momentary feeling of what's more than likely just you being anal retentive and a type A athlete who overanalyzes everything in data plus yourself and your body. So just relax and look back and be like, let's wait a minute. Why am I really feeling sore? And if I do, am I really sore because last week I did like 16 or 17 hours and it's been 10 days and I've done less of a load. Okay, so yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just overthinking this, overanalyzing everything. Life is going to be fine. I'm still going to have legs. Let's just do this. And just relax. But again, just don't make judgments, and especially if you're like 10 days out from a race, because this is also what happens. People like to give a life to their thoughts and their worries. And once you speak those thoughts and worries out into existence, then they start to become part of your identity as you taper. Like just consistent negative comments about I don't feel this or I don't feel that. It hasn't been that. Woe is me. Like, you know what you're doing? You're just taking a step back. You're walking up to your dry. Oh, this is a good one. Your dry erase board, and you're starting to paint a picture of who you're going to be on race day 10 days out. And the point is that you have no idea who you're going to wake up and be in 10 days either. You could feel incredible and have the greatest race of your life, or be prepared to have the greatest race of your life. But if 10 days out you started to paint this picture of not ready, or just doesn't feel it, or I think I'm getting sick, or I haven't had the best lead up, then you're talking just so many times, like we often tell ourselves, and we have this conversation on the podcast of you become the story you tell yourself. The same happens in race day through the taper. So many times athletes become the race they tell themselves they're going to have within that 2-week span or that 1-week span. So how about, for a change, telling yourself you're going to have a great race and you're going to be ready, and then you are prepared, and you're eating what you should be eating, and you're totally ready, and nothing, even if something bad happens, you know what? That's fine. Bring it, because it's just going to give me an opportunity to show that I can make good decisions, and I can still execute my plan, and I can still give the effort that I promised myself I would give when I signed up for this race, because I can control all those things. So no matter what happens, you know what? I actually hope things pop up, because I know within myself that I can make good choices and I can do the best that I can no matter what, and I don't think other people can. And so that is advantage me. And if you go in with that attitude versus the one that just total self-protection and put my ego in a bubble and please don't touch it, don't talk to it, don't look at it, then I guarantee you're going to set yourself up for a not just a better day. It may not be your greatest race ever, but I guarantee you when you get done, you'll be like, you know what? It wasn't the time that I, the old but, because we all give it, yeah, I had a great race, but like a mile 2.6 of the bike ride, I had to reach down and adjust my shoes, so there's like 10 seconds, so probably could have PR by like 2 minutes. But you're going to learn something about yourself, and you're going to be able to apply that, and you'll be more satisfied with your effort and execution than you will be anything else.
You know what I do during this time? I really try. I don't give my niggles credibility. And it's almost like I just sort of try to forget my body for this next week and a half, because it's just going to be trying to send signals all over the place. And like you said, a lot of times that's just healing, right? It's just like your body coming back together, and there's just sort of things going on that are building your muscles and getting things stronger and whatever. So it's easy to misconstrue them as problems when they're actually good things are happening. So it's like this week and a half going in the taper. You got to kind of, at best, give them like an indifference, It's like I literally just shut them off, because I can't. If you obsess and think about like, oh man, my calf's bothering me right now, what can I do about that? You can't do a whole lot right now. You just gotta kind of rest it and let it take care. It's almost a letting go to the world, letting go to because the body will heal more miraculously than you can, especially if you're talking yourself into it being a problem. Then it's gonna be like, oh, maybe this is a problem. And then, like you said, it's over. It's just that loop of negative thought that kind of gets harder and harder to release the more you put it out there. So it's like, just for example, I ran yesterday. For sure, it's gonna be my last toughish run before this race. And I got to be honest, I woke up a little bit on the edge. My legs are like, whoa, they haven't been feeling like that. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to it was sort of this 4 times 10 minute race pace intervals. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like you say, Yam Ferdinand, but I kind of maybe pushed okay, do I have this? I didn't go too far, but I kind of stretched it just a hair. And I was like, okay, and I woke up today, like I said, a little bit stiff, not bad, but I got a week and a half, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be doing a lot of running and not any more real hard work or anything like that. So I was actually really happy that I felt that, because I thought to myself, it's sort of like you did some work, but not too much.
Yep.
And that's what comes down to. I mean, that's the thing about races too, is like you got to do work in those races, you know.
And athletes totally forget that they've probably had 30, 40, 50 workouts through their last big training block or phase where they're preparing for this race, where they have probably commented in Training Peaks and been like, didn't really expect to feel that good today, but man, that was a great workout. But boy, if you've got a small little sore spot in your calf 10 days out from the race, hell's breaking loose. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to finish a 56-mile bike ride. What in the world is happening to my body? Just remember those things. Like, and stop overanalyzing and jumping to the most severe outcome possible. Because mental energy expressed and allocated towards any kind of negative thought is wasted energy that you could be using to positively reinforce or mentally and emotionally prepare for how you're going to do your best on race day. Mm-hmm. And more athletes than not waste so much mental energy with anxiety and fear and obsessing about things they can't control, or just things in general that, I don't know, who cares? Like, who really cares? Because most things can be solved on race day. Now, yeah, you got to have your helmet, you got to have your shoes, but the overanalyzing and the difference in mental preparation and emotional and physical preparation people do for these races is like they're a totally different species of creature than they are the other 30 weeks when they're actually training. They'll go out and like they won't get their bike tuned up for, like 7 years. And then, oh my God, I got to get it tuned up 3 days throughout the race. I'm going to take it, and then I'm going to get back. Then my seat might be messed up. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm probably going to lose some time. Like, just first of all, if you, don't be last minute Larry and go into your local bike shop like most triathletes do and be like, hey, I need to tune up. I need the whole shebang, new tires, new tubes, true my wheels, grease that chain. You know what? I don't even need a new chain. I need the newest carbon graded super chain where I'm going to gain 80 watts, and I need a new derailleur hanger made of gold. And you know what? Go ahead and throw some new air balls on there. I'll drop 500. All right, sir, that'll be $2,348. When would you like that back? I don't know. I'm thinking like tomorrow around 10. How's that work? Because I leave for my race on tomorrow at 10:15. Is that cool? Sweet. Yeah, and you wonder why bike shops hate triathletes. So also don't do that. A lot of things are just honestly better left untouched. If you ain't have a problem, don't make a problem. But just relax and think through things, and then think like, I don't know, am I making something out of nothing? And most oftentimes during the taper, the answer is always yes. Yes, I am.
Mm. Yeah, it goes back to this thing. I don't know about you, but every time I run that first mile or so, it feels like I'm going to collapse. It's just that process of getting into the run, and not collapse, but you know what I mean? It's always like, ouch, this hurts, especially if I don't really warm up. And it's that same kind of thing, right? In a race, you're going to have that feeling. But like over time, as you warm up, then you start to feel, and this is back to what you're saying about, during training runs, or you're training months before, you've been through this so many times. Just because it's a race doesn't mean it's any different. Just remember that training feeling. Go through that run, and by mile 3, I'm like, whoa, I feel better than I ever have. But about 15 minutes ago, I felt like ass. Like,
Look at you dropping an expletive.
I know.
Trying to
is that
take
banned?
It shouldn't be banned because I drop one every once in a while, and you have to apologize for it. But it's just so true. Like you're going to feel something different and again, it's like we forget what regular, because training days are opportunities, race days are opportunities, but a lot of times they manifest themselves and become the exact same. You're going to feel one way a minute, and it's totally be different. The same way you can look back and think, because 9 times out of 10, athletes will comment and say, I was really sluggish and I was just really wasn't feeling those first 20 minutes, but then I really got warmed up and I felt really good. And it ended up being a great run. 9 times out of 10, I hear that. One time out of maybe the 10, I might hear man, that run started out great. And then the last 5 minutes, I crumbled like two drunk guys playing Jenga. And I never hear that. that was a little bit funny. Give you some credit. and I know about that. So
it just sounds funny.
It just sounds funny. But that's also what people forget. They come out of transition. They come out of the swim and like halfway up T1, they're like, oh my God, my body's dying. I'm going to have the worst race ever. Guess what? Everyone feels like garbage running up on T1, and when you haven't used your legs for like 30, 45 minutes, and all of a sudden you're going to send all your blood screaming to your lower body when it's been in your upper body for, 3/4 of an hour. Guess what? Newsflash, it's going to suck. But don't just jump in like, you know what? I don't know what's happening. My legs aren't the same for like the first 5 miles of the bike. My legs always feel like total trash.
Yeah, like you haven't even trained for the race.
Exactly. You're like, I don't even know how I'm going to... And to be totally honest, my arms feel like, if I haven't done a really good warm-up, my arms feel like that the first, 5 minutes of the swim. When, if I haven't done a good warm-up, I haven't done enough arm circles, or I haven't gotten a good pre-warm-up swim in, and I have no blood in my upper body or my arms, or I have some, obviously, but not a lot. And then I go and I swim and I start pumping like all the blood up there to use my upper body. It hurts. And it's not hurt like lactic acid, like, oh my God, this is painful. It's just all of the blood rushing to your upper body. And every single race I think, oh my God, I haven't trained enough. it comes every single time. It's just like from the 10 years, 15 years of doing it, it's just like, I still have that thought, like, oh man, this is going to be a long swim. And then by the halfway point, I'm like, I don't even feel anything. This is like, feels normal. And so just, don't judge a race by, the 10 meters that you're in or the specific thought that you're in. Really, really, really take the time to understand that it's going to go away. It's going to pass, and and more than likely, you're probably going to feel great. But if you attach and you latch yourself to that thought process, then even when your body and your fitness presents itself in a different manner that's positive or stronger or faster, has more endurance, you're not going to listen to it because you're going to have already convinced yourself that it just ain't happening today. So again, like, these are the small things you should be and can concentrate on and think about when it comes to preparing yourself for the race and spending your mental energy wisely instead of checking Wonderground or AccuWeather 78 times a day and refreshing it like you do when you have 45 people doing an Ironman. Is you refresh that tracker like every 2 seconds, and just use your mental energy somewhere else, or do things, or give yourself opportunities to where you don't have to think. Next week, or this week, whatever is your last week of taper, just binge on mindless Netflix or Amazon Prime shows to just not think. Because for most triathletes, not thinking is usually their best option. Because if they do start, then they're gonna just totally overthink it. Or even if they do think, they're gonna think like way in the wrong, opposite, total, horrible direction. So relax, be grateful, look at all the things that you can control, think about how you're going to react, and that you're going to react in a positive manner. And then it's going to be a good thing. And that you're prepared for everything because, you know what? You can make good decisions, you can put forth a lot of effort, and you can control your execution. And those are the things you can control.
I like that, man. That's really what it comes down. #training day.
I'm scared to look at my inbox tomorrow. It's going to be just hater.
Yeah, well.
Well, you know what? That's fine. We don't have any sponsors to answer.
I mean, honestly, though, like if you're going to think of it that way, maybe that takes some pressure off some people. But it's okay to set yourself up for ways that are going to take mental pressure off you, but know that you really don't mean it. You could say it's going to be a training day, but it's actually going to be a race, and then 15
Well, I mean,
minutes in it, you're going to
most
get
people
like
throw it in there because then if they PR, they're like PR on training day, didn't even
PR
taper.
training day.
PR training, didn't even taper. Hashtag got in the bag. Hashtag shut your mouth. Whatever you want to say. But that's again, it's that ego protection of if I do great, it'll be a surprise.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
and everybody be like, "Whoa,
You were just
training
going to
day."
be that was supposed to be a training day, and look what you did.
Look, I was PR by an hour and 3 minutes. Hashtag train day. Hashtag PR day.
That's just glorification of the training day PR, really.
It's just like, I get it in the sense of what you may or may not be trying to accomplish because you're going to protect yourself and maybe but what's wrong with a little bit of pressure? What's wrong with feeling like you're putting yourself in a situation, just put yourself in a situation to learn something, not just go through the day mindlessly. Like if you're just looking into like just hashtag catered day I don't care about, but I'm doing anyway, and I spent $700 to participate with all these people I don't know. Make that your hashtag. That's a long one, but make that your hashtag.
That's a long hashtag. I've got a caveat for this hashtag training day thing. If you do that, if you put a hashtag training day out there before the race and you end up PRing, you can't put anything about your time. You can't put
totally 100% because it wasn't a race. Remember,
you didn't race
it was
that
a training day.
Yeah, because obviously in some rare cases that's going to have to be a true thing. If you set up a 70.3 3 weeks before you're full, maybe that is a good idea but don't tell everybody.
Well, it should be a box you have to check when you sign in.
Yeah, is this a race or a training day?
Race or training day? Well, all right, training day. You're in the back. You let's see. You can't use the aid stations. You don't get a timing chip. You don't get any post-race refreshment. You can't wear an aero helmet. And you're going to start mass start at the back with no wetsuit. Are you sure you want to check training day? Didn't think so.
Oh, that's so great, man.
People. I'm sure we just got our Ironman VIP passes revoked.
Yeah, we did. Hey,
but yeah. Anyway,
speaking of, is it too late to get on board with the C26 triathlon team at Chattanooga if you're not like on a team and you really like the podcast or anything like that?
Too late till like the day of.
Yeah,
and this only applies if it's not a hashtag training day. Only if it's a hashtag race day.
Yeah. So what's the process? You go to your Ironman login and then you just kind of find C26 triathlon team.
Everyone has a if they know it or not or don't. Everyone has like your own athlete profile on Ironman that they look for register. That way you can get your AWA certificate in the mail at the end of the year. So everybody has a profile, and you can affiliate with the team. And we have obviously athletes in our team and our club that affiliate. And we've also had some people on the podcast say that I don't have a team around me that I'm a part of. I train by myself, but I love you guys. I love the group. Even though you guys are kind of dicks sometimes, I still like you. I love the podcast. But do you mind if I affiliate with C26 Triathlon when I go? I'd love to represent that and feel like I'm part of something. Absolutely, 100%. So you can go and you can affiliate through the Ironman.com website. And if you haven't created an athlete profile, you can correct it by also emailing your race director of the race you're doing. But yeah, it's not, you can do it like the day before. You can do it when you go and fill out those like gigantic fancy cardboard waivers and stuff that Ironman has you do. So you can do that there if you like. And then we'll be there in Chattanooga. Mike, you and I both get in. You get in on Thursday. I'll be getting in on Friday. I'll be doing a lot of stuff with our team if you're going to Chattanooga 70.3. And then probably on Monday, I'll probably announce like a time frame to where we'll be out and about or at like a central location, probably at our team hotel, where you can hopefully, if you want to, and you can swing by and just, even just a couple minutes and come by and swing by and say hi, chat for a few. We would love to meet you. This is not about you meeting us. We would love to meet you, our listeners. It's very encouraging and gives Mike and I both a lot of energy to continue to do this as we'll be going on 3 years in October of offering 2 podcasts a week, for what I said, almost 3 years with no sponsors and totally free to you. It gives us a lot of energy and a lot of continued motivation to meet the people who listen. And honestly, anybody who's listened to all these podcasts and made it through, you deserve a medal. But we'll announce it on Monday. We would. Please say hi if you see us. Mike loves taking selfies with basically every single person that he sees. So
on the course
too. Ready on the course too. It's a training day for him. But no, definitely say hi. I'll be around. I'm not racing, and my wife and I will be there. Please say hi. Introduce yourself. We'd love to meet you. For anything else that we do, camps, coaching and training packages, swim analysis, our blog, other videos, and our club, you can go to crushingiron.com. That is your one-stop shop. If you have emails, questions, comments, or concerns, or compliments for Mike, you can go to crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you just want to basically hate on me for raining on your training day parade, you can email me directly at c26coach@gmail.com.
Go with the current. Just keep moving.
#training day.
#training. One more thing about that Triathlon Club affiliation. If you're racing Wisconsin, that's another really good one. That's another one of our team races. So if you're not affiliated with the team and you like the podcast, you like the group and want to be around, affiliate C26 Triathlon team for Ironman Wisconsin.
Yeah, because for that one, and we're doing this just with our team for Chattanooga, but for Ironman Wisconsin, if you affiliate in our team and club, ends up having the most registered athletes. Then we get priority placement on good bike racks in transition. We get some VIP passes that we'll hand out to some of your family and friends, and then we get $1,000 gift card to a local bar and restaurant, so we can have like a huge post race get together and pay for some drinks and appetizers for everybody. So definitely some incentives, but yeah, if you want to, if you have any questions about that or about that process, again, you can email me directly on that one, and we'll help get you taken care of.
All right, buddy. That sounds good.
All right, man. See you, dude.
See you later.